What's up, YouTube? This is Big Mike. I want to give a shout out to a subscriber of mine, Melvin. All right, he showed me a link to a segment from the sports show, The Herd, with Colin Cowherd, and he was talking about Kawhi Leonard, right? And basically, he was shitting on Leonard, saying that Leonard is overrated. What else was he saying? He doesn't pass the ball. He only has a 2 assists per game average. He's quiet. He's weird. In today's NBA, his defense is overrated because the way the game played, so he's overvalued as a player. He, was basically saying like Leonard is overrated. And, and that you'll never go anywhere with a leader who is quiet and not communicative to his teammates and what have you. And I'm listening to this garbage, man, and I have to say that Colin Cowherd is the most ignorant, least informed, so-called basketball expert I have ever heard in my life, man. Like, some of the stuff that he says is so easy to debunk and refute and to call out his hypocrisy. Like, okay, number one, there's so much stuff I want to pick at. Let's talk about his defense is overrated. Yeah, sure. The way that the game is played now, it's harder for defensive players to defend guys because of the rules. You can't put your hands on guys. You can't even, when guys are going through screens, you can't touch them at all anymore. However, there are times when officials will let you be a little bit more physical. Crunch time situations. And most importantly, during the postseason, those games are more physical. All right? And anybody who has the mindset that a team can go far, all right, without having players who are stellar on the defensive end is a fucking moron. You hear me? A fucking moron. Let me say that one more time. Anybody who thinks that having a defensive player on the year caliber player on their team is obsolete is a fucking moron. Next topic, this 2 assists per average thing. Now, we have to remember that in the beginning of his career, Leonard wasn't a starter. He wasn't started. So his career assists per game average is 2.3. That's brought down a lot by his earlier years when he wasn't a starter. So really, in reality, when he plays a full season now, he averages about 3 assists per game. Not a huge number of assists, but it's not a token amount either. But let's be honest about something. Leonard is playing on the team. Well, before I even say that, Leonard was playing on a team before, right? That had Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker in the backcourt. Now, if I'm not mistaken, both of those guys, even though they were going on the downside of their careers when Kawhi was coming up, both of those guys were playmakers, right? So when it become Leonard's role in the team to be also a playmaker? And I think Leonard, was pretty successful with that squad without being a guy passing the ball 6 or 7 times a game. Or getting at least, 6 or 7 assists per game. Now he's on a team with Kyle Lowry, who's gone from 6.9 assists per game to leading the NBA with 10 assists per game. So maybe that has something to do with why Leonard's not passing the ball as much as you like. Because, see, Colin Cowherd thinks that every small forward is supposed to play like LeBron James or like Magic Johnson. Those are his type of players. He think everybody should be a pass first big man or a point forward. No, not everybody plays like that. And I also want to challenge you guys on something. I want you to look through all of the leaders in NBA history, right? Go through all of the guys who look at the players who led the NBA in assists, right? Generally point guards, right? I want you to look to see how much their small forwards on those teams average. I only looked up one, Paul George. And guess how many assists he averaged last year when Russell Westbrook led the league in assists? 3. How many assists Kawhi averaging this year? 3. I looked at the year Chris Paul led the league in assists. I didn't look up all of them, but the last year, I think Paul Pierce was on the team, and in the games, he started half the games he played. And you know how many assists he averaged? 1. Now everybody's going to get the basketball. Colin Cowherd. But see, you never played basketball. You never watched basketball. You've never studied basketball. You're not an intellectual basketball fan. All right? You're a casual. I'm going to tell you what I think Colin Cowherd is. He's a casual sports fan with a good voice. And he can talk a good, bullshit game. But if you really know sports, you can see the bullshit he spews. I really think what the issue is with him is that he's a LeBron fan and he's a little bit butthurt because it's looking like Leonard will not be playing with LeBron. All right. He has no interest in going to LA. Well, not the Lakers. And so therefore he's shitting on him now. And this thing about quiet, weird players and how they aren't leaders and people have to be vocal like Magic and LeBron and all that such. Well, there's one guy who I remember wasn't very vocal, was quiet, wasn't flashy, but most people consider him the greatest power forward of all time. Tim Duncan. How many rings Tim Duncan got? 5, right? How many MVPs he had? I think it was 2. Another guy who was somewhat quiet and reserved, but many people consider him the greatest overall basketball player ever, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. How many championships Jabbar has? 6. MVPs? 6. Another guy, James Worthy, played with Magic Johnson, who led the league in assists I don't know how many times, right? James Worthy never averaged 5, 6 assists per game. I think he had maybe a couple of years toward the end where he averaged like maybe 4 assists. But for the most part, 2, 3 assists per game. Magic was the guy that was the playmaker. Kawhi's job on this team, the Raptors, is to score, because he's the most dynamic scorer, the best one-on-one scorer, and to defend. All right? And also, I want to say this in conclusion. People keep referencing this 7-1 streak they had without Leonard. Well, I looked at that streak, but I looked all the way back to November 17th when they've had this overall win streak, right? And in a lot of those games that they won, right, I saw some bad teams. It's like I get it twisted now. It was a couple of good teams, but I saw the Bulls, right? I saw the Magic. I saw the Hawks. All right. I saw two other bad teams I can't think of right now, and so and a couple of good teams. And while they did beat Golden State without Kawhi Leonard, all right, yeah, they did. The other time they beat Golden State in the overtime game when Durant had 51 points, there's no way in hell they went without Leonard. Didn't he have 37 points that game? And anyway, even the all-time great players, right? If you take Bird away from the Celtics, they're not probably a championship level team in that era, but they're still a very good team. Come on, you still have Robert Parrish, or another quiet guy who didn't talk much but had a Hall of Fame career. All right, most games played in NBA history. All right, you still have Robert Parrish. You still have Kevin McHale. Earlier, you could have put maybe Cedric Maxwell at the three. All right, um, you still had Danny Ainge, and you still had earlier Nate Archibald. That still is a very good team. They're just not a championship level team without Bird. So just because the team is doing well without their best player doesn't mean that they suck. So it's a stupid argument that this man makes, man. He constantly says the stupidest stuff I've ever heard in my life. All right. So since he loves assists so much, since he loves passing so much, why does he hate Westbrook so much? Mr. Triple Double. Oh, but he's not LeBron, right? Even though when Russell gets triple doubles, they win like almost 90% of their games. Come on, man. It's just a joke, man. It's a fucking joke with this guy, man. He's an imbecile.